as I was still observing what I saw in that world of the dead, I saw the angel of death. Now, I was 8, and at 8, I was being introduced to the angel of death. So, this angel of death came on a white horse. He was very pale. You could literally see a skeleton. And he was on a white horse. The white horse was also skinny. It did not have life. And he was traveling on a whirlwind. And when he came to me, he got off the horse and then he introduced himself to me. He said, "Welcome, child. I am the angel of death, and from today onwards, you're going to be working with me." When my dad lost everything, we found ourselves back in the village. And that is how my grandmother had access to me. And my dad left us in the village and he went back to the city to see how he can make ends meet. You know, he had lost everything, but still as a man, he needed to go and figure out certain things so that we can rise up again and be able to go to school and he'll be able to support us. So during that time, my grandmother had access to me. She would insist that I sleep with her in her bedroom. She was always insisting on taking care of me, bathing me, you know, cleaning me. As a child, she was providing my clothes. She was buying me clothes. She was paying for my school fees. She was now paying our rent. In the process of my grandmother having access to me, she began to initiate me into sorcery without my parents knowing. She cut my hair, she got my fingernails, she took my photos. She had now access to my body, and she was buying me clothes, so she had access to everything that I was using. Feeding us was expensive for them. By then, my parents were hustling to make ends meet, to get rent, to get school fees. So during holidays, they would send me to my grandmom and my little brother. And I would insist, "Mommy, I don't want to go to the village." She would tell me, "You have to go and know your people. Besides, I don't have money to feed you during holidays. Your grandmother has plenty of land. There is food. So you go to your grandmother's place." And I went from when I was 4 years, every holiday I would go to my grandmother. And that was a turning point in my life. I began to see now who my grandmother was. But as a child, I had no one to talk to. I had no one to listen to me. My parents were busy looking for money while the devil was busy taking their child.
Welcome again, and thank you for being here. So today I'm just going to look at a few highlights in the life of former sorcerer Erica Mkisa Kimani, and the different things that she experienced while she was working in the kingdom of darkness. Now you see the first part where she started off by telling us that it was her own grandmother who had initiated her into that kingdom of darkness. I just want to highlight that parents need to be so careful where they send their children. A lot of times parents, maybe in being too busy or just maybe looking for some time to relax, they may just decide, okay, we're just going to send you here, or we would send you there. And sometimes, yes, you think it's someone that you can trust. Just like in this case, her mother thought, okay, that's your grandmother. Surely she will take care of you. She can feed you. She can definitely give you all that you need that we can't give you at this moment. So why not? But not knowing that the grandmother was using that as an opportunity to access this child's soul, to access this child's life, and to initiate her into the kingdom of darkness. A road that ended up being an 18-year-long road. An 18-year-long road just for a brief moment of relief. It really wasn't worth it, was it? So parents need to be so careful where they send their children. And who takes care of your child? Who's taking care of your children? Do you know? Or is it just easy to have a relief or someone to help you? This is very important because the soul of your child it comes into play here. You're not just talking about, well, this person's taking care of my child, but you're talking about what is this person depositing into my child? What is my child doing while they are with this person?
When I was 8, she took me to a family grave during holidays, and in that family graveyard, where they buried the sorcerers of the family, it is in a house, and in that house there are so many graves. My grandmother took me where they buried her mother. I didn't know that the earth had a mouth and it could open its mouth. I didn't know all that until when I interacted with my grandmother. So when we went to this graveyard, we entered. My grandmother began to sit by the graves and began to mourn like she's weeping for them and talking and in words that I couldn't understand, somewhere in Lusoga, somewhere in a language that was very complicated to understand. It's like she was speaking in tongues, but in the kingdom of darkness. So she would go with some water and herbs and sprinkle. So me, I thought, with my little mind, because I was young, I thought that she was mourning her people who had died. But she was speaking to the dead. So we moved from grave to grave. I was standing beside her. She was speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking. There were about 16 graves. By then, now I know there are many because people have died within this time. The last grave we went to with my grandmother, you see, graves gets to the kingdom of darkness. They use graveyards as a channel, like as a portal to travel to the other dimension, to the spiritual world. So I didn't know that. They go to dirty places like the mortuaries, graves. Some go to the mortuaries to sleep with those dead bodies. Yes, you find in some homes, some people are still having the bodies of their wives that they sacrificed for wealth, and they are still sleeping with those dead bodies. Life is spiritual. You have to know this. So we go to the grave of my great-grandmother, my grandmother's mom. And when we went there, I felt like there was a wind that just entered into the graveyard from the entrance. And this wind was very, very like soft, a soft, strong wind. And I stood firm. I was feeling like I was getting these goosebumps on my body. And my hair, I was feeling like my hair was standing still. I was filled with fear. And I heard a voice, like a voice that is combined with many voices of the people in the grave. So I heard voices screaming, and we were standing still with my grandmother. And I heard a voice of her mother talking to her, asking her, "Why have you brought this girl here at a tender age? Why are you exposing us? Why are you undressing us before a child?" And my grandmother said that the dad, my son, has entered into a religion that does not believe in what we do. So I want this child to inherit after me, but because of their religion, the dad cannot allow me to initiate my granddaughter. So I have decided to take her before the other religion takes her. Talking about Christianity, my parents were saved and they wanted me to serve in church. My dad would always go tell my grandmother how I was preaching. I'll tell you that other side of the story. So when she mentioned that, she said, "Now I am so and so, a granddaughter of so and so, granddaughter of so." She began to name the lineage, her lineage, the evil family tree, because people come from family trees. And different families have different challenges. You can find that in a certain family, their challenge is they die prematurely. You find that in another family, they all end up dying from cancer. You find that in another family, they all have fibroids. You find that in another family, the girls don't get married. So different families depending on the covenants that they are involved in, they have different challenges. So our family was a family of sorcerers. So my grandmother, after introducing me to the dead, she slept on the grave and she pulled my hand. I also slept on her mother's grave. And this is what happened to me, friends. That portal was opened for us to travel to the world of the dead. As soon as I slept on my grandmother's grave, we were swallowed. I don't know how I can explain, but we were swallowed and we went to the world of the dead. And when we went to the world of the dead, we traveled through a tree. We entered a tree. It swallowed us. And we traveled through that tree. I found myself in another world now. This world, I met with the angel of death. I met with my ancestral spirits. Those of you who have watched Black Panther, you see how these people travel and they meet with the ancestors and then they come back and they begin to rule. It's not just a movie. They are trying to tell you that life is spiritual.
Yeah, she talked about something that's very important. It's called bloodline curses, because a lot of times there are things that happen and you see it's repeated in the family tree. It's repeated from one generation to the next. It's a bloodline curse. It's a bloodline iniquity, and it has taken root. It's like a stronghold. So because it was never dealt with, it was never cast out, it has legal access to everyone that's in that bloodline. In addition to that, we see that when that movie came out, and not just that movie, Black Panther, but there's so many movies where the kingdom of darkness, they're showing you. A lot of us, we still have the opinion. I mean, even if we once were in the darkness and we thought that movies were there for our entertainment, I think by now we should know movies aren't there for your entertainment. Movies are there to show you what is taking place in the kingdom of darkness, what is being prepared to trap your soul. And a lot of times we are looking at something that is a ritual and we're participating in that ritual just simply by being an onlooker, because you're willingly looking on. So in the case of Black Panther, so many people, we got all dolled up and put all these different markings on our skin, and we're doing the whole movement with the hands and things like that, participating willingly in something that now they knew what it was. But people who were just looking on and thinking, oh, it's just a movie, you had no idea that it was all these different rituals. Because look, Erica traveled to the kingdom, to the world of the dead, and she said it was just like what we saw in Black Panther. It was just like what we were looking at in Black Panther. And there she was able to meet with that angel of death. And we'll hear more about that shortly.
Everything there has no life. And as I was still observing what I saw in that world of the dead, I saw the angel of death. Now, I was 8, and at 8, I was being introduced to the angel of death. So, this angel of death came on a white horse. He was very pale and very bones. You could literally see a skeleton. And he was on a white horse. The white horse was also skinny. It did not have life. And he came he was traveling on a whirlwind. And when he came to me, he got off the horse and then he introduced himself to me. He said, "Welcome, child. I am the angel of death, and from today onwards, you're going to be working with me." And I asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And he told me that I will be fighting marriages, causing accidents, and causing death in places where I go. And I said, and how will I be able to do that without getting arrested? And he said that I'm going to show you how you can do that. So he took me to a certain place. And when he took me to that place, he told me that there are so many people on this planet that have entered into a covenant with him. He told me that there are politicians, musicians, celebrities, people of all kinds of categories, doctors, people who want power. There are people who want power that have entered into a covenant with him. And he mentioned a certain hospital. The owner of that hospital is a devil worshipper, and they abandon, how he sacrifices to that kingdom, they neglect women who are going to give birth, and they make sure that the mother dies and the child who they are giving birth to, and that is how that business is sustained. He began to now reveal to me certain celebrities that had entered into a covenant with him, and among those celebrities was a very popular artist, and you all knew him as a king of pop.
So that very famous artist that we loved to love, and so many people who attended his concerts, you would see people screaming in such a frenzy. I mean, I've never seen someone scream literally to the top of their lungs like that. And it's as though but people did faint. A lot of people did faint in his concerts as well. But little did we know that what we were looking at was someone whose body was being used as a vessel for the angel of death. So the angel of death, just like how you heard Beyonce talked about Sasha Fierce would take over her body. There's this other artist that talked about a boy spirit called Roman that takes over her body, Nicki Minaj. And now this artist as well, that everyone loved, Michael Jackson. We were looking at him unaware that the surgery he took was in order for him to look like the angel of death. But even in addition to that, the angel of death was the one that was performing through his body. When these people tell you what they're doing, believe them, because they're not, you think it's a joke? The angel of death was using his body and performing through his body, dancing, all the moonwalk that we're looking at. You weren't looking at Michael Jackson. You were looking at the angel of death operating through his body. Operating through his body. And there we are screaming our lungs out, screaming our heads out, not realizing that this is a being that has come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that people's lives were lost as a result. Because people are so blinded spiritually. So blinded spiritually. Something just looks good, it sounds good, and we think it's all that. Not knowing that it's there for your own demise. It's there for your own destruction.
The angel of death took me to a valley that David spoke about. He said, though I walk through the shadow or the valley of death, I will fear no evil. So he took me to that valley, and in that valley there was a river of blood. People crying for justice, people who have been murdered. They were crying, their blood was speaking. That's when I knew that blood speaks. That's when I knew that life is spiritual. That's when I knew that the ground has a mouth and it has ears. It can hear. It can open its mouth. It can swallow. That's when I knew the secrets of death. We went now to the valley of death, and I saw a lake, a river full of blood, and this blood was crying for justice. These are people that have been murdered, aborted, sacrificed for rituals, people that were killed through witchcraft. All that blood, the angel of death has it, and it is crying against the people that killed. Those people are crying, and they are crying for justice against the people that killed them. And the angel of death told me that that was his source of power, and he dived into that lake. I don't know if it was a lake or a river, because I was too young to differentiate, but it's a pool of blood. So the angel of death began to dive into that pool of blood, and when he dived into that pool of blood, he became young. He became so attractive, like that musician, the pop musician, the king of pop. He died, but you know him. I don't even need to mention his name. You know him. He became so young, and the skin became so smooth. It's like he explained to me that when you see people saying that when people get accidents, the demons are drinking blood. You don't see demons drinking blood or coming with a straw. In fact, you find all that blood there. What the demons steal from the blood of a person that has been killed prematurely is the life force. Why they are so much interested in killing children is because these children have a greater life force and they are innocent. So they steal their innocence and they steal their life force and they are empowered and they are able to live longer than their time. So every time they feel like their contract with the enemy is coming to an end, they have to renew it by sacrificing, by killing, destroying lives. You see, the Bible says that the devil came to steal, kill, and to destroy. But Jesus came that we might have life and have life more abundantly. So after the angel of death got out, the horse began to clean him by licking the blood that was on him. And even the horse gained a new skin and a new life force. And they were so strong, stronger than when they had come to talk to me. And the angel of death, after revealing to me so many things, if you want to know some of the things, you can get a book. He told me, now your mission is going to be causing accidents, causing death in hospitals. If you go to a hospital, people have to die. And you don't need to enter a ward. Just walk through the hospital. Every ward you bypass, someone has to die.
So we understand that this angel of death, he is empowered by the blood of those who have been murdered, those who have been killed. That actually gives him life and youth. So of course, he will forever be searching for that. And not just that, it also gives him a longer lifespan. Because when that young child dies, he's now taking the time that life would have been and adding it to himself. Man, the things of the spiritual realm are so deep. And we sit here, walk around this world, act like if it's just, we're just here to have a good time. We're just here to get a job and to get a pension and just enjoy your retirement and then go to the end of your life. But there's so many spiritual things happening around the clock. The spiritual things that are governing your life, that are affecting your life, that are affecting the lives of your children, that is happening all the time. But because so many of us are still ignorant about it, we think it's just maybe bad luck or whatever else you want to label it as. Now imagine that she did not even have to touch anyone to kill them when she walked through the hospital. She can just walk through the hospital and people would die. Do you see the importance of prayer? Do you see the importance of praying for your loved ones who may end up in the hospital, to make sure that they don't end up in a satanic hospital where a doctor is pretending to be looking out for them, but really that doctor is working for the kingdom of darkness and looking to reap souls? Where a doctor would leave an expectant mother to die and have that child die to be a sacrifice to the angel of death? And you think you're going to a facility that will care for you and take care of you. But they are working for the kingdom of darkness, and they're looking to see how they can deliver souls to that kingdom. And there are still people who would turn around and tell you that there is no God. That there is no God. We are living in real spiritual warfare every single day. Even while you're asleep, you think that you get a break when you're asleep. They are monitoring your life. They are doing things that you would never think possible. Because in the natural realm, we are so limited. They can go through a wall. In the natural realm, we have to open a door. But remember, the doors that we open in the spiritual realm would be the doors of our lives. What do you meditate on? What is in your heart? What is in your bloodline that was never closed? What is your secret sin that you think that nobody sees? It is wide open in the spiritual realm. Everything is uncovered in the spiritual realm. You think that it's hidden and that you alone know about it and it's your secret sin. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, no, it's not. Jesus Christ came and he died on the cross. And I thank God that he saved Erica so that she could expose the kingdom of darkness. He has warned us to have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather to expose them. And I am so glad that she with her husband Tim, that they are exposing these things, and that there are others who were once in that kingdom of darkness and they are exposing these things, so that we who are unaware in this world, because there are many of us who are unaware, can understand. It really, for me, it's unimaginable that there are people who would hear these things and still remain scoffers and mockers. You've not been to that side of the world in terms of that dimension in the spiritual realm. You've just in your own bubble in this physical realm, and you try to explain away everything with science. And when someone who's coming from that side tries to explain to you, this is not really how it works, what you think is not really the truth, you still want to hold fast. You still want to hold. There is coming a day when there will be no more, I don't believe this, or I don't believe that. Everything will be seen by everyone. And all those who say they didn't believe, they will believe. I'm hoping it won't be too late for people, that some people would change their minds before that time comes. Because when that time comes, after you leave this life and you leave this world and you start to see the things that were really there, that God protected you from, because He knows that we could never remain sane and see these things. We could never remain in our sound minds and be able to see these things on a daily basis. So in His love, He protected us from seeing those things. But when you leave this body, that protection is, that coverage, that is over. It's done. And your eyes will be fully open to see the spiritual realm. And you will go to a place that you will not, you probably thought would never, you probably thought never existed. But that's for those who die and they just remained ignorant, or they just remained arrogant, just didn't want to take heed at all. But there is a spiritual realm. I'm praying that people will take heed and that they will turn their lives to Jesus Christ, the only one who can save us from the pits of hell. He died to save us from the pits of hell. He's the only one who can save us from the pits of hell. Don't remain arrogant. Don't remain a scoffer and a mocker, because when you get over on that side, you cannot change your mind and come back and say, yes, I believe now. Give me another chance. There is no other chance. There is no other chance. Listen to the testimonies of people. He's been so gracious to us. He's been so gracious to us to give us testimonies of people who are living in our time, where we can take heed, where we can go look into things for ourselves and realize that this world is a spiritual place. But if you want to continue to remain a scoffer all the way to the end of your days, there's only the wrath of God that's awaiting you. And I assure you that you won't enjoy that at all. I plead with souls to take heed. I plead with souls to change your mind before it's too late, because God does not delight in the death of a sinner. He does not want people to perish. And neither should we as His children. We should never want anyone to perish. Even though it's a witch or a warlock, the blood of Jesus is enough to save that soul, if that soul will repent. So change your mind while you still have time. Change your mind while you're still breathing on this side. Thanks again for being here, and until next time.